If you like the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this.
What is your accidentally caught your spouse cheating horror story? Early 2000s, my friend's husband was deployed to Iraq. Together, they had a 10-year-old son and a happy marriage. One day, while he was deployed, I am at home when another one of our friends calls and screams, "Holy shit, turn on the news right now." I turned it on to watch a human interest story about a fundraiser at a high school 30 miles away. They're doing Relay for Life or something, and as a surprise to one of the participants, they had her husband and father of her 2 grade school children do a video call from Iraq and displayed it on the football jumbotron. There on our local news is my friend's husband, telling another woman and 2 kids how he loves them and can't wait to get back home to them. The news eats it up, about what a great guy he is. That night, our group of friends convened and decided how we would tell her. I was nominated, so the next day I had to sit her down and tell her what we saw. She called the news station, and they were happy to let her come in and watch the story. They were also incredibly apologetic. Story has a somewhat crappy ending, I'm afraid. She called him out on his BS, they started divorce proceedings, and he went on to legally marry the mother of his other kids, and mostly ignored his son from the first marriage. I met this girl who was working the late shift at a drugstore. We'd flirted a few times, eventually exchanged numbers, and started sleeping together. After a few weeks, she invited me to go drinking at this crappy little bar she liked in the north side of the city. So we spend the night dancing together, drinking, and talking to people she knows. Eventually a guy comes up to me, saying, "Great to meet you finally. Congratulations on the engagement. What are you talking about?" I replied, laughing as I choked on my drink a bit. Guy gives me a quizzical look, and says, "You're here with Corey. It's Paul, right?" I raised an eyebrow and pointed a thumb to my chest, stating, "Nah man, name's Kyle." We stared at each other, watching each other realize what was playing out on this faithful night. Corey was engaged to a guy named Paul, I was the other guy. Paul worked out of town for weeks at a time. It was actually interesting, how you literally could see the word travel around the small bar, drastically changing the vibe in the room. We left shortly after. She brought me, the guy she was cheating on her fiancé with, to her favorite bar. She brought me to a place full of friends that at least knew her well enough to know she was engaged to a guy named Paul, not Kyle. Messed up stuff. Didn't see her again after that. According to Facebook, Paul and Corey are currently married. Things had been a little shaky as I was working a lot and felt sapped when she wanted to go be social with friends, so I often stayed home. I wanted to do something nice for her for Valentine's Day, so I sent her friend a text asking if there was something that she may have mentioned she would like to do. As I was waiting on that text, I was in another room. I saw her phone buzz with her friend's name. The number was below the name, and since I had just sent her a text, I knew they didn't match. There are very few times my blood has been that cold and feelings of dread. I called the number with my phone and it rang and rang before going to voicemail. Needless to say, it was the other guy. I confronted her about it and she said she was waiting to leave and had a bag packed in case I found out. She had no intentions of trying to work things out, so a month later she had moved out. I made a decision then that I could be broken up and miserable, or that I could choose to be happy and be open to a relationship if it was available. I've since remarried and have 2 beautiful boys with my amazing wife. Regardless of the shittiness and horror in these stories, there is always the opportunity to be happy. If you're reading this thread because it happened to you or just from morbid curiosity, choose to be happy. Be the person that you can be proud of and move on to better things. My ex-wife was an alcoholic. Like, bad alcoholic. One time I get home from my night shift a little early, and you guessed it, she was drunk. Well, I was horny, and she's usually drunk when we fuck anyway, so what the hell, I came onto her. So, we're fucking and it's dark and she says, "You need to hurry up." So I ask, why? He's going to be home soon. Who? My husband, you fucking idiot. Yeah. So, I pull out and hop out of the bed and flip on the light, and this bitch looks absolutely baffled. She's shit-faced drunk, and totally dumbfounded. I ask her, who did you think was fucking you? What? Who did you think was fucking you? What are you talking about? Never mind, I'll talk to you about it in the morning. I'm not drunk. Yeah, she didn't even know what the fuck I was on about. So, I go to bed on the couch, and I'm sitting there going over shit in my head, and I hear her come down the stairs. She goes into the kitchen and I hear a drawer shut. A few seconds later, she's standing over me with a fucking knife. I promptly take the knife from her. Tell her to go to bed, which she obliges without saying a single word. I grab the kids and put them in the car, and drive to my mom's house where we spend the night. She starts blowing up my phone at 10 a.m., frantic that she doesn't know where the kids are. We have a mini intervention. She promises to go to A. I attempt to erase the entire night from my memory, which didn't work obviously. About a month later, she hasn't held up to her AA agreement, and has pretty much gone back to her old ways. I come home from work, and I see a fucking LA Dodgers hat on my couch. Who was over? I ask. Nobody. Are you sure? Yeah. Don't fucking bullshit me. Who was over here? Are you calling me a fucking liar? Yeah. I am, because someone left their fucking hat on my fucking couch. At this point she concocted some stupid story about a neighbor coming to borrow something. I knew she was lying. At this point I had pretty much given up on the marriage, but didn't know what to do. I was afraid that if I divorced her she'd somehow get the kids. A lot more fucked up shit happens over the next month or so, including her making up a story about Mexicans jumping her, my neighbor calling CPS, me catching her actually kiss a guy, 2 potheads admitting to having a threesome with her. Then one day in July of 2008 I asked her to have a seat. I told her that I was filing for divorce. She put up a fight, but I won full custody of my kids. I started dating again, and have been with my new wife for 9 years now. I was in Florida on vacation with my girlfriend of 6 years, our 4-year-old son, and her family and a few of her friends. She had been taking pictures down at the beach all afternoon on her phone. We got back to the house we were staying at and everyone was in the kitchen making dinner. I picked up her phone and opened it up to text my family the pictures she had taken. As I'm scrolling for the thread, I see her ex-boyfriend's name. Open up the messages and first thing there are videos of them masturbating they had sent to each other. I yelled, "What the fuck is this?" Her mom turned toward me and asked what was wrong and I loudly proclaimed what I'd seen. She said that she had gone out with some friends, gotten drunk, invited him out for a drink, and ended up blowing coke all night. Then said she got blackout drunk the next night and sent the videos. Claimed that was the only time she'd seen him. Yeah, so when she fell asleep of course I went through her phone again. She'd seen him multiple times throughout the previous 2 months, and I found pictures of them together posing like a cutesy couple on their dates. Her brother and dad were pissed. I got the fuck out of there the next morning. Ruined the vacation for pretty much everyone, and totally wrecked our family. 2 weeks ago I sent a message to a mutual friend asking to borrow a router. He didn't answer, but no worries, he lives nearby. I'll just stop by and grab it. I pull up to his house and start heading down the driveway. He has a long country driveway, so it's a few seconds before I see my car. I drive a company vehicle during the day, already there. My heart began to sink, but they are friends, and business partners, maybe it's nothing. I got out of my van and look up to see the other guy shirtless in his bedroom. At this point my heart is down on my stomach and I am visibly shaking. I go in and immediately head upstairs. He is alone, now clothed. I say, "I came to borrow the router, also have you seen my wife?" "The car is here," he then proceeds to give the worst improve I've ever heard. Huh. No, she was here at some point though. Whatever, I knew she was there, I just wanted him to admit it. I go down, take the router, and head back to the van where I finally encounter my wife topless trying to sneak around the side of his house. And now here I am. I opened my sister's door to ask for a hair tie and she was fucking my BF. This was in high school but still. I spit on them, yelled why, and went downstairs to leave. My dad is in the living room on the computer and asks what's wrong. I say, go upstairs and see for yourself. I ran outside and heard the yelling right away. My dad chased him out of the neighborhood naked. She got shipped to my mom's house shortly after that. And got pregnant at 17 years old. Edit. Whoa. Didn't expect anyone to actually see that. This was just the start with her. To answer some questions. I asked why later and he said he did it because she would have sex and I wouldn't. I was still a virgin and she was sexually active at 12. No, I never spoke to him again, he's actually a meth head now. She slept with another one of my boyfriends a year later. Another one, I found them kissing on our front porch one day after grade 12. Fast forward to me being fresh out of high school, full-time job that I loved. She's knocked up with number 2 and my dad made me quit my job, and move in with her to watch my 1-year-old niece, so she could finish high school. She does, then has THR baby and is too lazy to raise either, so I do for a year. I finally say enough. I didn't want to leave my niece and nephew, but I was a kid and wanting my own life and not to live in her apartment with her new boyfriend and 2 kids. I moved back home and start new. My nephew's father ends up getting custody. She didn't try to fight and didn't show up to 3 different court dates to try and win him back at all, so she takes my niece and splits up north to hide in our hometown. By now my niece is 3 and from up until now, she turns 18 on the 9th, she has lived in 4 different provinces and Florida twice. My sister has ran all over the country, going through probably around 100 men. She's been engaged more than I can count. Back to me. When I moved back home, got my life back together in my own place about a year later, who comes knocking at the door? My sis and niece. Can we stay for a bit? Of course, you're my sister. She fucks my roommate, doesn't take care of my niece. She's getting high and whatnot. My niece gets smoked in the head by one of the guys she's hanging around with a golf club. I take her for stitches. Tell her to go back home and stay there. She does, thankfully. She cleans herself up a bit and goes to college. Fast forward to me getting married and having my own 2 kids. She comes to visit with her fiancé and my niece. She was now 6, and I catch sis trying to blow my husband. Goodbye for another 2 years and eventually goodbye to the husband too. That's a whole other issue. The jerk. Fast forward again and I'm with my first kiss from 13. My soulmate barf, and unbeknownst to me, he has a drinking problem. She takes advantage of that. She has admitted in the past when I've asked why she keeps doing this to me, that she can't stand that I've always been successful and happy, so she tries to ruin it or take it away and starts sexting my boyfriend. They texted for a few days and feels bad. I read them, and that was that. He did cheat with other women but was also blackout drunk for the better part of 2 years. He quit, has been sober since December 12, 2014. Different man. Amazing man and father. My sister on the other hand. I finally had enough, and at our little sister's wedding, right at the end, I told her to never call me, message me or try to reach me. Forget I'm her sister because she's never treated me as such. We haven't spoken since then. That was 2013. She's still the same. My niece gets no attention. My mom has basically raised her when she's been close to them to take care of her. She comes to our house a lot too. My sister is too busy worrying about this man or the next, too busy getting stoned. I'm not against smoking a joint, and too busy with her own life. She shouldn't never have been a mother. We were high school sweethearts and had been together about 7 years. We went to college together, worked together, basically spent 20 hours a day together. I left for the military and never got a single letter from her or heard anything about her from my mom, the only person who did write me. Somewhere in the first 2 weeks out of 13, I came to the conclusion that she died and people were sparing me the stress while I was in boot camp. I'm floored when I see her at graduation. She seemed cold and distant, but she'd also recently gotten over a substance issue, or so I thought. I stayed with her for 10 days before leaving for training instead of staying with my mom, and I hardly see her. She says she is working 2 jobs and going to school. I try to be understanding and supportive, but she also didn't come home one night. We part on weird terms, but she assures me she's just sad to see me go. I'm a couple weeks into training and my family and girlfriend drive to see me. We have a really good 3-day visit, and when they're dropping me off, I get a phone call from a good friend I'd known for years. He tells me how sorry he is. She had told him that I broke up with her when I left so I could have guilt-free casual sex, which was what I always wanted. He told me her sister found out we were still together from a text she had seen. He was so apologetic, and I thought he was a piece of shit before, but that was the behavior of a stand-up guy. She denied. This was a real shitty move on my part, but I pulled the texts from our shared account back when you could do that, but I justified it because her new boyfriend had already offered to send them to me. With texts in hand, she still denied it. We both moved on and she's married to him now. My boyfriend was sleeping with his ex right in front of my face for months, and I ignored the signs. The first thing that I noticed was that he all of a sudden stopped talking about her. Went from complaining about her all the time to never even saying her name. Next, my toothbrush at his place disappeared, and the couple items I did have he put in a bag under the sink covered by a towel. When I asked, he said he didn't want his daughter to get into it the weekends she was there. Same thing with the one pair of flip-flops I had there. They went missing one day, and after pressing him over and over, he got them off of the back porch that no one even goes on, after saying repeatedly that he had no idea where they went. Then, he started to pick fights with me Saturday nights. 4 or 5 in a row. He would text me a whole bunch of times if I didn't respond to the first text in 2 minutes. He would just be mean, saying I am ignoring him and not to bother talking to him the rest of the night cause I must be hanging out with someone else. Even with all the little things piling up, I still thought he wouldn't do that to me. The day I accidentally caught them was the worst. We made dinner plans with another couple for that night, but around 4 p.m. he started texting me acting like a complete asshole, said he was drunk and in a bad mood and depressed and just couldn't go out and not to come over because he would just be a jerk and he didn't want to do that to me. Well, I figured it'd be a good girlfriend and bring him dinner from the restaurant. I texted him 5 minutes before I left and said I was on my way, and he texted back and said he was in bed and not to come, but I said he'll just leave it in the fridge cause I already bought it and didn't want to waste it. When I drove up to his house, his car was pulled all the way up the driveway like another car had been parked behind it, and I thought that was weird since I always had to pull his car in to park in the driveway because he would park at the bottom. When I got inside, he was upstairs in his room, fully dressed. There were 2 cups on the nightstand. I decided the easiest way would be to catch him in a lie, so all I said was, I saw someone pulling out of your driveway as I was pulling up. Who was that? The look on his face said it all. I started crying, begging him to tell me the truth. He said I was crazy and that his brother had just stopped by to drop some stuff off. Well, that was it. I knew he was lying for sure. I pulled up Snapchat and his brother had snapped from a baseball game 2 hours away. Obviously he was caught, so he came clean, said he was still in love with her even though she was horrible and I was so much better. He couldn't get over her and would never be able to, and he wanted to tell me for so long and that he thought I really knew cause I am so smart and I know him so well. Blah blah blah. I tried to make it work, but a week later I drove by after he said I was annoying him all day and wanted to be alone, and her car was there. I knocked on the door and he answered, but couldn't really say much. We both knew she was upstairs. I yelled up that she was a slut and she came downstairs. She said had no idea we were together. I wasn't sure what to believe, so I just left. He called me a lot, begged me for forgiveness, said he never slept with her, they were just hanging out. I still miss him dearly, but I can't do that to myself. Being alone is better than being with someone who doesn't really love you. My first long-term girlfriend and I were going to go to the same college. I got accepted, but had to start the semester after she did, meaning we would be slightly long distance for a few months. It wasn't too bad because we were only about 2 hours apart, so it was pretty easy to visit, but our relationship did struggle a bit. I remember one night I got a phone call from her, and when I picked up it was obvious it was a butt dial. I could hear her talking to some guy, but couldn't make out what they were saying. I called her and she picked up and I asked what was up. She said she was in bed about to go sleep. I told her about the butt dial and she said it was her friend Jack, who I met, asking to borrow something. I thought it was odd but brushed it off. A couple weeks later I was up there visiting her and I met a bunch of cool people, including this guy Luke. After I got back from visiting I get a Facebook message from him saying, "Look man, I hate to be the one to say this, but I think you're an awesome guy and you don't deserve this to be happening to you. She's been cheating on you with this guy pretty soon after she started here." I was devastated, but I had to hear it from her, so I called her and said, "Are you cheating on me?" She gave a heavy sigh and said, "Well, at least I don't have to lie anymore." That guy's voice I had heard wasn't Jack, it was the guy she was cheating on me with. I just trusted her so much that I took her word for it. Even though it was painful, I was grateful for Luke sending me that message. What's funny is that most of the people I met up there that were her friends sided with me after the breakup, so when I started going there that next semester I had a group of friends to support me and most of them are still very close friends of mine to this day.